God is good all the time. We're going to go ahead and start our program, as I believe now, of course, Chris is the last person to go through the line. She's a servant of the Lord. Let's hear it for Chris Dernier. I think everyone's gone through. We're so grateful to Concordia's food service. By the way, voted #1 of colleges in Minnesota. Did you know that? We'll have a greeting tomorrow from Concordia. Before I start, we're going to honor some folks with some coinings, acknowledging people who've lived well and faithfully into our core values, and then also anniversaries and lots to celebrate tonight. And my goal is to get you out of here while there's still a little bit of this beautiful day to enjoy. Sound like a deal? All right. So I have to tell you a story. So I grew up, no, this isn't my life story, but I did grow up in a German descent congregation. You know, in a Green Bay, Wisconsin. I don't know if you ever heard of Green Bay, but I won't say it. And so, you know, very high church, all the smells and bells every Sunday, communion every Sunday. Pastor was hair pastor, president of the council. That's my tradition. So, and I thought that's how Lutherans always did it. And then I went to Luther Seminary and then my first call was in South Dakota, where it was mostly Scandinavian, and of the Scandinavians, mostly Norwegian descent Lutherans. And so I learned that there's other ways to do church too. And my first call was a two-point parish, and one of those was an open country congregation in rural Madison, South Dakota. And beautiful church made out of fieldstone, just a gorgeous and a delightful little faithful community. Joe Jorgensen was one of the patriarchs of that community, and he was one of those that was with me when I went on visits, because I told them, I said, now we should reach out to the neighbors. And they said, well, we know all our neighbors. So I said, well, who lives there? They said, well, that's where the Swensons used to live. And so maybe we should just go knock on some doors, and even though they're separated by some miles, and see who's here. And we actually had some people show up in church, and we had some growth. And then the next year we had when we had council elections, a lot of these new members were elected to council. And Joe came up to me in tears afterwards. I said, what's wrong, Joe? He was crying. He's like, don't get me wrong, Pastor. I mean, I think it's good, but do you realize there's not a single Norwegian on the council? So it's been pointed out to me that today is Setten Mai. So happy Setten Mai to all you other kind of Lutherans out there. And you are many. So one of our traditions is to acknowledge folks who have served in some way in the last year or several years faithfully. Obviously, we could hand out coins to everyone in the room, but we make some choices each year. And this is a tradition that I learned about in my years serving as a chaplain in the Air Force, in the Air National Guard, and occasionally deployed with the Air Force. And so this is a coin, and on one side has my name and the name of our synod and and the outline of the Northwestern Minnesota Synod, and the other side is the seal of the ELCA. So I'd just like to invite, first of all, I'd like to invite Pastor David Fleener to come up. And these people, most of them don't know, so they're terrified, I don't know, mortified. Come on up here, Dave. So David has served very faithfully as a conference dean. That can be a kind of a thankless job. It just means you get a lot of extra responsibilities, and I don't know, we could double David's salary as a dean many times, and it'd still be zero. So, but Dave, you did a great job as a dean in a conference that doesn't always love to, do all the getting together because it's big and there's big churches and it's spread out, and so you did I think a wonderful job of demonstrating our value of faithful in relationships as you endeavored to deepen relationships in your conference, in the Alexandria Conference, and in connecting people, keeping people connected to the work of our synod. And so thank you on behalf of all of us, Pastor David. I want to invite Pastor Terry Hagenson to come up. Pastor Terry. Oh boy. Must have lined up one of those beer dates. We'll catch Pastor Terry tomorrow. Is Alan Bertelroot here? Alan, are you here? Come on up here, Alan. So Alan served very faithfully for 2 terms, 6 years as on our Synod Council. And most recently, he helped us restart our endowment committee to shepherd the funds and also the use of those funds for endowment. And I'm grateful for you. So come on up here, Alan. And Alan is a retired banker. So I think I want to talk about authentic in our welcome, or authenticity, because to me what that means, it's not what we often think about like our authentic selves, but it's really about sharing the authentic gifts, the God-authored gifts that God has given us in a way that we serve and love our neighbor. And you've done that through your many gifts, serving as our chair of our endowment committee, on our council, and now, more recently, as a Synod-authorized minister in your congregation at Bethany in Red Lake Falls. So on behalf of all of us, Alan, thank you for your faithful service. Thank you for your leadership. You got it? Okay. So, okay, another true confession. So when you receive one of these from a senior leader in the Air Force, like the worst possible thing you can do is drop it. And I was in front of a bunch of people like this, and the base commander at the end of a deployment was giving me a coin, and what do you suppose I did? In front of everybody, I dropped it. So I'm making that confession in case one of you drops one of these coins. You don't have to worry about it. Amanda Hawk. Amanda, Redeemer? Zion in Thief River Falls is from Zion in Thief River Falls, finishing your second term on Synod Council. You know, I bet this never happens to you, that like you're together on a council or a board and some task comes up and it's like, who wants to do this? Does this ever happen to you? Amanda was one of those people who would be, yep, I can do that. So I want to thank you for your faithfulness as a Synod Council member and your willingness to engage the tasks of the council, serving most recently on our executive committee. So thank you so much, Amanda. Got it? Pastor Eric Clapp. Come on up here, Pastor Eric. So Pastor Eric serves at Calvary Lutheran in Perham, and there's been many ways in which I've appreciated Pastor Eric's service in our synod. He was one of the original members of our commission. There's a C word in there. Commission on racial equity that was formed after the murder of George Floyd, as we tried to discern as a synod, how do we respond to the racism that we live with in our part of the world, and has been a leader with the team of people who lead anti-racism trainings, and now has acceded to chair, so he will serve as the chair of our anti-racism team. In addition to the many other ways, like he's the lead worship planner for our synod worship, and I've just appreciated Pastor Eric's, again, just the authentic use of your good gifts and the way in which your service shows true love for our neighbor in addressing the issues of racism in our synod. So thank you, Pastor Eric. Pastor Bob Kirchman. Pastor Bob. Pastor Bob is now serving Living Grace. He stepped into that role, a congregation that had suddenly found itself without a home, so to speak, and without a partner in ministry, just by decisions that they and their partner made, and really needed someone to step in and shepherd them to discern what was their next phase of life and ministry together. And I've just been so appreciative of the graceful and earnest and authentic way that he's entered into that community and helped that community to figure out what's next for them. And so, Pastor Bob, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your faithfulness in relationships. Someone you've already heard from, Pastor Birgitta Simpson. Pastor Birgitta, get up here. Pastor Birgitta, are you the furthest north?
No, I live in Bemidji.
Oh no, but you were the furthest north when I first met you, almost. Yes. Baudette. When I first met Pastor Birgitta, she was in Baudette. One of the first people I met in this synod, at least after I was the bishop. And, but it's not Baudette that I want to talk about. Oh. It's, I'm just amazed at your work at People's Church. I was present with Pastor Birgitta and Julia Plum and the other leaders at People's Church when they went before the Zoning Commission in Bemidji to win approval for 2 special use zoning permits in order to make a major addition to the facilities there, and badly needed. And People's Church is a church, and it's also a shelter for people living with homelessness. And as you can imagine, that always involves some controversy. And that was true this night too. But what was so evident to me was the deep relationships that Pastor Birgitta had already built in that community, and the great respect they had for her and her staff and the good ministry they were doing. And both measures ended up being passed unanimously. And so thanks to a grant that you wrote the grant, right? Or in collaboration with others, that she wrote for to the state of Minnesota, they will now receive a $750,000 grant. So, love making a difference. I mean, this is a congregation that's teaching us all how to love the most vulnerable neighbors in our midst. And so, thank you. Pastor Emily Papke-Larson. Pastor Emily she wears a lot of hats, but the hat I want to focus on is her hat as the mission developer for a community called Grace. And there are people who probably would not identify in any way with the church but for the ministry of a community called Grace. And this is a community that expresses its deep openness to all of God's people, and that invitation to come and be a part of a community is being heard. It's not a huge community, but it's a small, growing, and vital community of people who are wondering what faith looks like in the 21st century for them. And so, thank you for your faithfulness in ministry and relationships, Pastor Emily. Joan Muhlebrook. Joan, I know you're here. Did you hide on us? Okay. Joan is our financial and data systems specialist. And Joan, this has been quite a year for Joan as she has been battling cancer throughout this year, has just completed her chemotherapy, and has had good reports all the way through. We're very hopeful. Once she can raise her arm above her head, she can have radiation therapy. That will happen, and through this all, Joan just insisted on continuing to work with us, and which is good because we don't know what we would have done if she hadn't. But right. We like to get paid, and she does write the checks. So, but Joan is, besides for your incredible strength and perseverance that's been remarkable for all of us in this last year, you're just a treasure to work with, always a can-do spirit. You've got I think, a 50-pound brain that can figure things out when we can't quite figure them out. So I'm just so grateful for you, and you're going to continue to be in our prayers as you win this battle with cancer.
Yes.
And last but certainly not least, Cheryl Zay. Come on up here, Cheryl. Cheryl does not appreciate being in the limelight. I'm pretty sure that's true. But Cheryl is retiring this year. If you ask her when, she'll equivocate a little bit on the date. And so I was just saying, I think I can string this thing out. We can, but probably September of 20. Anyway, so I could show you Cheryl's job description, and it wouldn't begin to describe Cheryl's work with the Synod and the huge impact she's had long before my time and during my time here. She is the person who will likely be the one to greet you when you come into our office, and it will seem as though that she has nothing else to do but greet you, even though the stack on her desk is very high. She is the one that makes sure that when you generously send your mission support or your individual gift to the Synod or any of the many ways that we share offerings around our church, she's the one that makes sure it gets shared in the proper way and entered in the proper way. All of the things we have in our office are there because Cheryl made sure they were there and that they actually worked. She knows the levers to pull here at Concordia College to get things done. And we are now currently seeking to hire 3 people but no. Anyway, Cheryl, just thank you. And we're going to have opportunity to thank you in other ways too, but I wanted to start here tonight with this. So thank you so much. So we're going to do anniversaries, and I'm going to turn it over to our indomitable VP, Sharon Josephson.
Just so you know, I broke a toe last year, and my problem is I don't have good balance anymore. I'm so very, very pleased to congratulate and announce the congregations that are having significant anniversaries this year. Now remember, the foundation for our Northwest Minnesota Synod are the congregations. You are the ones who provide the financial, the emotional, the spiritual support for everything else that takes place in Northwest Minnesota. There are over 200 congregations and somewhere between 75 and 90,000 Lutherans. So these are the significant anniversaries. First, the 125th anniversary is Silver Creek Lutheran Church, Thief River Falls. And now we have congregations that are celebrating 150 years. And this would make our Norwegian ancestors, relatives all, very, very proud of us. 150 years. I always like to tell the story. I had an old Norwegian aunt, and by the way, happy Setnamai. I was going to say that if you didn't, Bill. In fact, I even had my Norwegian flag ready to go. Well, anyway, what she would say is the way we built the churches, the physical churches, was that the wives made pies and cakes and sold them to their own husbands. So those congregations celebrating 150 years. First, Bigland Lutheran Church, Fisher. Second, Central Lutheran Church, Pelican Rapids.
By the way, we are the Old Swede Grove Church.
Oh, dear. And just so you know, the Norwegians did not get independence from the Swedes. This day is actually Constitution Day, and guess what? I'm also a proud Swede, so. The next one is Gruy Lutheran Church, Ashby. And the last congregation celebrating 150 years is Nora Lutheran Church, Gardner. Are you Danish?
We are true Norwegian because we're the Lutefisk capital of North Dakota.
Oh, they are the Lutefisk capital, so that works. I thought he was going to tell me he was Danish, and then I could say, yes, Danish works too.
We've had patrons from 46 states.
Oh, wow. Yeah, visitors from 46 states. Now, I'm going to turn this back to Bishop Bill, but before I do that, this is going to be the recognition of anniversaries for ministers within our ELCA in Northwest Minnesota. But once again, I have a mentor who was my confirmation teacher, and he would always say this: in the Lutheran Church, we call our respected pastors pastor, because pastors are like shepherds, and the people follow that pastor, as opposed to just the reverend, which is a recognition of that individual. So I look out at all of you, and all of you have the highest name of pastor. Can I stay up here for you?
Thank you, Sharon. I think I'm going to use this one.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. There we go. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. Never mind. Oh, wait. I think we got it. Did we get it? No, never mind. All right. We'll just do it this way. So I'll invite you to come up, and we can, with my knees, I almost need assistance myself, so we are happy to assist you in coming forward if needed. So, celebrating their 25th anniversary, Pastor Carl Larson. I got to know Carl when he was serving congregation in South Dakota, and he's legendary for his football acumen as well. So, Pastor Sonia Brucklocker. Thank you, Sister Sonia. Okay. Yep. And then Deacon Ruth Hetland celebrating her 25th anniversary. Wait, Reverend Ruth Hetland. Why did I say deacon? I think I was thinking of Deacon Ruth Blum. So, Pastor Ruth Hetland. And Pastor Ruth is also, in addition to serving as a parish pastor, has the ministry Consecrate, which is a wonderful ministry that provides items each month for people of faith who want to focus on their faith. So, thank you. So, some guy named John Olson, Reverend John B. Olson, a member of your Synod staff and a seminary classmate, that's the word, thank you. Seminary classmate of mine. So, John, congratulations. Oh.
And we also have a 35th anniversary for Pastor William Tesh. So, Bishop, congratulations.
Pastor Stephen Olson, 50th anniversary of his ordination. Pastor Steve, can I ask, where can you just share where you served here?
My last parish was Hoffman, Minnesota, and then Faith Lutheran in Medelia, Minnesota, and a bunch of interims. So, everywhere.
Are you interested in more interims?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
can barely remember my own name.
I thought I'd try. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
And celebrating his 55th anniversary, Reverend David Pretty. Sure. And where did you serve? Detroit Lakes.
We've been doing catering work for the last 2 years,
Okay.
and I think I got together the last.
Okay. Well, we still have more opportunities, sir. All right. All right. Thank you so much. Congratulations. And last but certainly not least, a 60th anniversary of ordination for Pastor Dick Kennedy. Wow. Come on up here. You got to say some things here. Share where you served.
Where did I serve? I began as the first non-finished pastor in Mountain Iron, Messiah Lutheran Church, so Pava to any of the Finns that are out there. Went from there to Excelsior, and then to Montevideo for 10, Fergus Falls for 10 at Augustana there, and then Then I got the call to work with Art Rimmerai to be on the Synod staff for 4 years, and I used to get to plan the Synod Assembly in the non-air-conditioned field house, for those that remember. And then ended up at Purim, was there for 7.5 years. I was off for a couple, couldn't stand it, so went back for another 5 years at Vining, where I've retired now on East Battle Lake, and Mary and I are just enjoying the product of a purchase back in '76 when we started building our cabin there.
Nice.
So it's been a great tour. Most recently, I want to share with you the grace that I've received for the past month and a half. I don't think you even know.
I don't.
5 weeks ago, I had a heart attack. My wife rushed me to Purim. They took good care of me up there. The doc said, we better get the helicopter. Through that, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. I was rushed up to cardiology, and they put 2 stents in my heart, and I've got 5 weeks of cardiac rehab that I've been working to get back in shape again, so
That's awesome.
it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Kennedy. Say, you had some interns in your time, am I right?
One I'll acknowledge.
Yep. So,
John B. was,
John B. Olson here.
we had 2 women, and then the interim committee said, we got a boy.
So I'm just going to say that when you were his internship supervisor, you probably did not imagine a day when on the same day you'd be receiving your 60th and he'd be getting his 35th, right? No. It's pretty cool. All right. I'm going to invite Pastor Rebel Hurd to come up. Pastor Rebel? Pastor Rebel's title just changed not too long ago from Director to Evangelical Mission to Associate to the Bishop for Mission, unless she's in Chicago, in which case she's still Director for Evangelical Mission. But that's an important shift because it means that she's embracing some more traditional synod roles, and in particular, she's the person on our staff who oversees and supervises our full-time support staff. And so I'm really grateful for your leadership in so many ways, including that. So Associate to the Bishop for Mission, Pastor Rebel Hurd.
There's a significant height difference between the two of us. So one of the things that I am blessed to do in the work of mission is to work with our world hunger people. So I get to have conversations, and prior to coming here, I got to serve on the team that got to decide who received the grants. But once I started working for the Synod, I didn't get to do that anymore. So it is really exciting that I still get to be a part of ELCA World Hunger. So I want you to hear that we are so very deeply grateful for all of our partners and congregations who support the ministry of ELCA World Hunger. Their mission is to work until all are fed. And I think that we can agree with that. Amen? Amen. As we celebrate the 50th year this year of the vital ministry of ELCA World Hunger, we get to give special thanks to one of our congregations, and that is to Calvary Lutheran Church of Little Sauk. So if you are here from Calvary Lutheran Church of Little Sauk, make your way up, please. And we get to give this special thanks because of their extraordinary generosity that they have given to ELCA World Hunger. I got to go a couple of weeks ago and join with a group of people. Oh, it's on. Who's in charge of that? That's amazing. Of course, it's Christina. There is a picture. And we got to sit and talk about why they care, why world hunger matters to them. And it was lovely to hear the conversations, and that this has been a ministry that is near and dear to their heart for so long. And they have traded what I am going to announce now, the honor of receiving the Holy Cow Award, with a couple other congregations too, but they keep fighting for it. Every time it goes away, they want it back, and they told me that this time they're not letting go of it. So I believe that you should hear that as a challenge, all of you out there, okay? So with great appreciation to the gifts for ELCA World Hunger from Calvary Lutheran Church in Little Sauk, I'd love you all to give them a round of applause. No. He asked if I can tell how much they won it by. No, I am not going to do that. So that would be a challenge. Maybe next year that would be a challenge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Rebel. So I'm going to invite Pastor Keith Pearson up here again. We're actually going to do his installation service right here. But I want to talk a little bit more about this opportunity we have with this new position for Minister of Generosity. Come on up, Keith. And so several things are really unique and exciting about this. One is, of course, that it's funded by a generous person who is deeply committed to the mission of the Synod and of the church here in northwestern Minnesota, and has deep roots in this area and cares deeply about congregational life and wants to see congregations thrive and wants to see Synod congregations and our churchwide organization thrive. And that's what we all want. We know that mission support, which is that portion of your general offering that each year at your annual meeting you come together and prayerfully decide that you'll send on for the mission of the wider church. That funds the vast majority of the core work that we do as a Synod, and it always will, and I think it should, because it's an expression of the partnership we share in the gospel, that way of funding mission and ministry in the church really exemplifies this interdependent relationship we have as Synod, church congregations, churchwide organization. And we also know that if we are going to do anything more as a Synod beyond those core activities that you all know and expect from your Synod staff and from the Synod ministry, then that will require some additional resources. And we've been doing that in some ways with our 2 Giving Hearts Days over the years, and you've very generously supported that, which has enabled many new ministries to start and to begin to thrive and flourish. And so we've demonstrated that there is this willingness and desire for individuals to give directly to the ministry of the Synod and the wider church. And of course we know that that desire has always existed in congregations. Sometimes people who have been very successful in business or who through inheritance have come into wealth are accustomed to being very generous and giving transformational gifts, and they usually do so when they are asked. And sometimes these very same folks who are members of our congregation, when they are asked, why don't they think about doing the kind of transformational giving right in their own congregation? They will say, because no one has asked. And so part of the mission in Keith's new role for the Minister of Generosity is to enable all of us to learn how to invite generosity in a faithful, biblically grounded, relational way, and to do that for congregations, for the ministry of Synod, and for the ministry of our churchwide organization. So the other thing that's really unique about this is that it is a pilot project that we are conducting with the development team of the ELCA churchwide staff, a team of super gifted professionals who've been doing this work for many years. They bring some backbone to this work for us in that they will provide the benchmarks, the training, the coaching, and also the research and data that's necessary for us to be able to be successful. We're the only Synod doing this pilot, and we believe, and it is our hope, that this could become a truly transformational for our whole church and one day be standard practice across all of our synods. So we're breaking some new ground here, and we're doing it with Pastor Keith as our very first minister for generosity. I've known Keith for 4 years. He's become just a part of our staff as the regional gift planner in this area and done amazing work in many of your own congregations and with many of you individually. And I'm really excited to work with him in developing deeper relationships across our synod and inviting generosity that follows the gifts and passions and deep desires of the people who are being called into greater generosity. So I'm really excited about that. Keith, I know I didn't prep you for this. Anything you want to say?
I think the best calls are the ones that you don't expect, had no plan of being here, and you enter with a high degree of fear and trembling. This one checks all of those boxes.
All right. So why don't you stand right here? We are going to install you right here in this place. So, do we have slides for the installation or no? Okay, that's fine. After prayerful deliberation, we of the Northwestern Minnesota Synod have called Pastor Keith Pearson as the Minister for Generosity. I present him and this letter certifying this call. We'll just use this one. All right. Keith, in the presence of this assembly, will you commit yourself to this new trust and responsibility in the confidence that it comes from God through the call of the church? If so, please answer, I will, and I ask God to help me.
I will, and I ask God to help me.
Tell them.
I will, and I ask God to help me.
Great. Will you give faithful witness in the world that God's love may be known in all that you do?
I will, and I ask God to help me.
Almighty God, who has given you the will to do these things, graciously give you the strength and the compassion to perform them. And the assembly said, Amen. And now please stand as you are able. People of God, will you receive Pastor Keith as a messenger of Jesus Christ? Will you pray for him, help and honor him for his work's sake, and in all things strive to live together in the peace and unity of Christ? If so, please answer, we will, and we ask God to help us. We will, and we ask God to help us. People of God, I present to you Pastor Keith Pearson, our Minister for Generosity. Let's welcome him in the name of Christ. You may be seated. Each year, we remember people who serve faithfully in the ordained ministry and who are our siblings in Christ who've gone on to their heavenly home. And this year is no exception to that. One of the things that when I have opportunity to be present at a funeral, I always remember to thank not only and not only to extend condolences, but also to thank the families and the extended family of our pastors and deacons who've served so faithfully, because it is, of course, the support and the encouragement and sometimes just the willingness to listen that makes it possible for people to serve faithfully in these roles. Sometimes those family are far away. Sometimes they're right in your same household. And they are the people who, of course, more than any of us here, are grieving the loss of these beloved ministers. And so as we watch this video presentation, I invite you to also to hold in prayer all of those beloveds who were their beloveds and who love them and who are mourning, as we are too. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we have some retirements to recognize, and some of you in the room might be thinking, gee, I wonder if I'll ever get to do that. And what I would like to say is, I hope not. So, and I'm not lying when I say that either. You saw me asking these folks with 50 and 65 years if they wanted to do some more work, right? So I'm going to invite Pastor Laurel Ivers to come forward. And I know we have certificates too. Yep. So I know I already coined you once, Pastor Loyal, but I'm going to give you a second one, and you can sell it on eBay or something. I don't. Pastor Loyal's last call was first as interim and then as associate pastor at First Lutheran, and served many other years. And we have a common friend who died just this past year, my internship supervisor, and yours too. So I guess we can blame him now for, yep. But what a beautiful man, Harlan Mink, who just died just a few weeks ago. But I'm going to give you this coin and this certificate, and then do you want to share where you served, or do you want to give us a word of wisdom from your years, or do you want to share anything at all? Microphones work.
We both had the honor of serving at English Lutheran Church in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, and so being a Packer fan sort of came naturally for us. But I've loved just serving Jesus, and I've loved being part of this synod. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Ann Newgard Larson. So Pastor Ann was, I remember, the first fall theological, before the world changed in the fall of 2019. I was looking for we wanted to live on a lake, and I was looking, and it must have been known that I was looking for a home, because I still remember I was going in the door, and Pastor Ann said, well, how about Pickerel Lake? I said, well, how do you know about Pickerel Lake? She said, well, I live on Pickerel Lake. I said, and there's other pastors that live there too. And so now, that's where I live. I live on Pickerel Lake. And Pastor Ann is one of my neighbors, and have been delighted to get to know you in that way. And also in your work as a pastor, I know that throughout all the years of your ministry, your passion for God's creation and our faithful stewardship of God's creation was always a major theme. And I know that's something that people through the years have greatly appreciated about your work in ministry, among the many other gifts that you shared. So thank you on behalf of all of us. And do you want to say where you served, or do you want to say anything?
I was a part of the LCA for about 6 months. Started in 87, and in 88 we became the ELCA. I was at the oldest Swedish Lutheran church in North Dakota, a place called Harwood. Went from there to Felton and Borup, and then went to Detroit Lakes, and pretty much served every single congregation in Detroit Lakes except First Lutheran, and that's where we're now members. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pastor Sonia Brooklocker. I don't know if you know this, Pastor Sonia, but yours was the first installation I did in this synod.
I think I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember being super nervous, and I thought, well, I have to have the best sermon in the world. So it ended up being 50 minutes long. And
We're still talking about it.
I know. I remember Chad sitting there. We had a smile on his face for most of the time, and he was like, But you were very gracious, and I know that I've just been delighted to serve with you in the many ways we've gotten to serve together, including attending the church-wide assembly. That was a lot of fun. Do you want to share some things about where you served, or?
Well, I sure can.
All right.
Most recently, I served at Bethany Lutheran Church in East Grand Forks and Tabor. The Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Tabor. But prior to that, I kind of say I've sort of been around a lot, like the block, kind of, because I worked when we first came to North Dakota. I served Family of God Lutheran on the East Grand Forks, and then also in conjunction with that, Our Savior's in East Grand Forks, and then did a year at Calvary in Grand Forks, and then back to East Grand Forks, where I have, most recently left Bethany and Holy Trinity. So it's just been, I've absolutely loved serving this synod and serving, with everybody, and under your leadership has just really been special. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I have my retirement papers with me.
All right. Thank you, Sonia. And for those three of you, if you get bored with retirement, just remember, we have work. So you're noticing a theme here, possibly? All right. So I would like to invite Amanda Simmons, who's the Congregational Life and Volunteer Coordinator for Lutheran Social Services, to present the Servant of Christ Award to one of our congregations. Amanda, come on up.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Amanda Simons, and I serve through a synodical call to Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota as Director of Church Partnerships and Volunteerism. It's so good to be here with you tonight, and I thank you for your welcome of me. I want to express my deep gratitude on behalf of the entire LSS community for the ways that your congregations are our partners in the ministries that we are able to provide throughout the state of Minnesota. LSS is the social service ministry arm of this synod and the other 5 synods of the ELCA in the state of Minnesota. We were born out of a congregation 159 years ago, and because of congregations like yours responding to local community needs, we have grown to become a social service ministry that provides over 25 lines of service. Thank you for your partnership, the ways that you financially give, that you volunteer, that you offer donations, that you share word of mouth about the services that are provided. Together, we are able to serve 1 in 63 Minnesotans because of you. So thank you. Tonight, it's my honor to be here to present the annual Servant of Christ Award to a congregation of this synod. And to announce that award tonight, I bring to you a message from our LSS president, Patrick Tucson, if the video works, but my guess is the synod staff will work their magic. And I invite that congregation towards the conclusion of the video to come forward to receive tonight's award.
Hello, I'm Patrick Tucson, President of Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota. I'm pleased to be with you as a representative of LSS, your social ministry organization. As I reflect on the good work that has happened since last year's Synod assemblies, I'm immensely grateful for LSS's congregational partners. LSS and faith communities across the state have pursued strategic collaborations that look to the future. We have also focused on addressing immediate needs of those we serve. Thank you. Thank you for your partnership. Together, we have learned about the needs of our neighbors. We continue to listen to those we serve, share resources with our mission partners, and alongside congregations to empower individuals and families with the support they need to change their own lives. Together, we have served our neighbors in tangible ways, whether making fleece blankets for kids, assembling resource kits for youth experiencing homelessness, or delivering hot meals to older adults. LSS's church partners help advance our mission through their action. And of course, congregations in every corner of our state have given generously of their time and their resources to support more than 25 LSS lines of service working on behalf of our neighbors in each of Minnesota's 87 counties. Regardless of how your congregation has engaged with LSS, thank you. The work of LSS and you is a mosaic of amazing acts of caring and courage in communities everywhere. The Servant of Christ Award is one of the ways that LSS honors those amazing acts. Annually, LSS recognizes one or more congregations in each synod that are leaders in social ministry. At this time, it is my privilege to announce the 2024 Servant of Christ winners. This year, LSS is pleased to present the Servant of Christ Award to Calvary Lutheran Church of Park Rapids in the Northwest Area Synod. As dedicated volunteers with LSS meals, members of Calvary have a significant impact on their community. Calvary's volunteers deliver meals for an entire week every month while also supporting several area dining sites through financial gifts. In 2022, the congregation extended its hospitality to its newest neighbors when it co-sponsored 2 families in partnership with LSS Refugee Services. Calvary's newest outreach effort is its Hard Hat Ministry. This outreach effort provides a helping hand to community members who are struggling to address property or home maintenance issues. Calvary's social ministries also extend beyond the border of Minnesota. Since 1994, Calvary has been a mission partner to San Lucas Lutheran Church in Eagle Pass, Texas, and in 2019 became a mission partner to San Pedro Lutheran Church in Puerto Rico. On behalf of Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota, thank you for the ways that you have been a powerful presence in your community to love and serve your neighbors.
Let's have a round of applause for the ways that Calvary, like so many of our congregations, demonstrates faith, active in love. Thank you, Calvary of Park Rapids.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Simonson. Great work, folks at Calvary. I don't know if maybe you probably know, I'm a relatively newcomer to Minnesota, so this is probably stuff you already know, but I mean, the lives of our neighbors would be very different and much worse off were it not for Lutheran Social Services of Minnesota. It is the largest social service agency in the state, and it's also the largest Lutheran social service agency in the United States. It's just an amazing organization that does incredible work. So I encourage you in your own communities. There are kitchens and Meals on Wheels and all kinds of feeding programs, just so many myriad ways that you can become involved. So if you're interested in that, call me, give my office a call, or look at your directory in your own community. Go online with LSS. You can see all the opportunities there are to serve. So thank you, Pastor Simons, for your good work on behalf of all of us. This is, I think, all you'll hear from me before tomorrow at worship for my hour-and-a-half sermon. And then, so I think someone has announcements, and it's not me, so is it Chris? All right. Before I sign off, thank you so much. This has been a delightful evening, and look, there's still sunshine outside, so you can get out and enjoy it. We'll see you tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow. There's early bird for you early risers. Tomorrow, if you like running, you can meet Pastor Elizabeth at 6. If you put in your GPS, third drop in Moorhead, you can meet and do a Synod Assembly 5K or 10K. I don't even like driving that far. Come and just be ready to learn and worship and do the work of the Synod together in fellowship. And I am looking forward to it. So go in peace and serve the Lord.